Have you ever noticed something strange about happiness? The more people chase it, the more exhausted they become. And yet, some of the calmest, most fulfilled people aren't chasing anything at all. So what if happiness isn't something you achieve, but something your brain allows? What if it's not hidden in success, money, or relationships, but inside biological systems quietly working in the background? Tonight, we're not going to motivate you. We're going to decode happiness, what it really is, how it actually works, and why understanding it might be the most relaxing thing you do today. Let's begin with something unexpected. If happiness is one of the most important goals in human life, why do so many people misunderstand it? That is the first strange thing we need to notice. Almost everyone says they want to be happy. Entire careers are built around it, books promise it, social media displays it, yet rates of stress and anxiety keep rising. So what is going wrong? The problem is not that people do not want happiness. The problem is that many people confuse it with excitement, success, or constant pleasure. They think happiness must always feel intense and visible. But real happiness is often quiet and steady. It does not always look impressive from the outside. Because of this misunderstanding, people chase the wrong signals. They look for big moments instead of stable feelings. And when those big moments fade, they assume happiness is gone. But what if happiness was never about those big moments in the first place? To understand this better, we need to correct another common mistake. Happiness is not one single emotion. It is not just smiling or feeling excited. It is a system inside your body and brain. Many processes work together to create what you call happiness. Your hormones, your thoughts, your habits, your sleep, your relationships, all of these interact. When these systems are balanced, you feel calm, safe, and satisfied. When they are not balanced, you feel restless or low. That means happiness is more like good physical health. It depends on many small systems working together, not one big switch turning on. This is important because if happiness is a system, then it can be supported and protected. But if we treat it like a quick emotion, we will keep looking for fast fixes that never last. So what part of this system confuses people the most? One of the biggest confusions is between pleasure and long-term well-being. Pleasure feels good in the moment. Eating your favorite food, buying something new, getting praise, these create short bursts of good feeling. But well-being is different. It is the steady sense that your life is stable and meaningful. You can feel pleasure without well-being. For example, someone might enjoy parties every weekend but still feel empty during quiet moments. Pleasure is intense but short. Well-being is calm but lasting. The brain treats them differently. Pleasure activates quick reward signals. Well-being grows from safety, connection, and progress over time. When people focus only on pleasure, they often feel satisfied for a short time and then crash. That crash makes them chase more pleasure again. This cycle creates confusion. So if pleasure is not the same as happiness, what role does dopamine actually play? Many people believe dopamine is the happiness chemical, but this is not accurate. Dopamine is mainly about motivation, not happiness itself. It pushes you to seek rewards. When you expect something good, dopamine rises. It creates anticipation and focus. It helps you move toward a goal. But once you achieve the reward, dopamine does not stay high for long. That is why the excitement before buying something can feel stronger than owning it. Dopamine says, go get it. It does not say, now you are satisfied forever. This is a big reason why chasing goals can feel addictive. You enjoy the pursuit more than the result. True contentment involves other systems that create calm and stability. So if dopamine is driving the chase, what creates the peaceful feeling people call real happiness? When people keep chasing dopamine, something interesting happens. At first, the excitement feels strong. A new phone, more likes, A new goal, each one creates a rush of motivation, but the brain quickly adjusts. What felt amazing yesterday becomes normal today. This means you need a bigger reward next time to feel the same level of excitement. Over time, this lowers long-term satisfaction. You are always looking forward but rarely feeling content. The brain becomes trained to expect constant stimulation. Quiet moments start to feel boring instead of peaceful. This is why endless scrolling or constant achievement can leave people feeling empty. The system that pushes you forward never tells you to relax. It only says, "What's next?" If dopamine is about chasing, then what creates the feeling of calm contentment that lasts longer? This is where serotonin becomes important. Serotonin is linked to mood stability and a steady sense of well-being. Unlike dopamine, which rises during pursuit, serotonin is connected to feeling secure and balanced. It increases when you feel respected, valued, or socially connected. It also improves with sunlight, healthy sleep, and regular routines. When serotonin levels are balanced, people often describe feeling calm and satisfied without needing constant excitement. It does not create a rush. It creates steadiness. This is why simple habits like going outside in the morning or keeping a regular sleep schedule can improve mood more than big achievements. Serotonin supports long-term emotional balance, but stability is not the only part of happiness. What about the warm feeling you get from close relationships? That warm, safe feeling often involves oxytocin. Oxytocin is sometimes called the bonding chemical because it increases during trust, touch, and connection. When you hug someone you care about, spend time with a close friend, or even have a deep conversation, oxytocin levels rise. This chemical helps reduce stress signals in the brain. It lowers fear responses and supports a sense of safety. From an evolutionary view, humans survived in groups. Feeling close to others increased chances of survival. That is why connection feels calming at a deep level. When people feel lonely, stress levels often rise because the brain senses social risk. Strong relationships do not just make life enjoyable. They protect emotional health. But there is another system that supports happiness through the body itself. What happens when your body relaxes deeply? Endorphins play a big role in physical relaxation and pain relief. These chemicals are released during exercise, laughter, and even during moments of relief after stress. Endorphins help reduce physical discomfort and create a mild sense of well-being. That is why people often feel better after a workout, even if they were tired before. The body sends signals to the brain that it is strong and capable. Endorphins do not create intense excitement. They create comfort. They lower physical tension and help the nervous system settle down. This shows that happiness is not only about thoughts, it is also about the body feeling safe and balanced. When the body relaxes, the mind often follows. So if multiple chemicals work together to shape happiness, what does this say about how we should approach it? By now, one thing should be clear. Happiness does not come from one chemical or one moment. It comes from cooperation inside your brain and body. Dopamine pushes you to act. Serotonin helps you feel stable. Oxytocin supports trust and connection. Endorphins reduce pain and relax the body. When these systems work together in balance, you experience what you call happiness. But when one system is overused or ignored, balance is lost. This is why chasing only excitement often leads to stress. It activates one part of the system too much. Real happiness is not a button that turns on. It is more like a team working quietly in the background. When the team works well, you feel calm and satisfied. When it does not, something feels off. If happiness depends on biology, then why does it sometimes feel controlled by thoughts? This leads to an interesting question. If happiness is rooted in biology, why does it feel so psychological? The answer is that your thoughts influence your biology. The brain reacts to what you believe and focus on. If you think you are unsafe, your body activates stress responses. If you believe you are valued and secure, calming systems activate. Thoughts are not separate from chemicals. They trigger them. That is why two people can face the same event and feel very different. One sees opportunity. The other sees danger. Their brains release different chemicals based on interpretation. So happiness feels psychological because your thinking patterns guide your biological responses. But even when something amazing happens, the strong emotions do not last forever. Why does your mood slowly return to normal after big events? This pattern is called hedonic adaptation. It means humans quickly adjust to new situations, whether they are positive or negative. When you buy something new, the excitement feels strong at first, but after a few weeks it feels normal. The brain becomes used to it. The same thing happens after good news, like a promotion. At first, you feel proud and excited. Later, it becomes part of everyday life. This adjustment process protects your nervous system from extreme emotional swings. Without it, you would stay overwhelmed by strong emotions. Hedonic adaptation shows that lasting happiness does not come from constant upgrades in life. The brain resets expectations over time. That is why people often keep chasing the next big thing. But what causes this emotional reset inside you? Humans return to an emotional baseline because the brain seeks balance. Strong emotions use a lot of energy. The nervous system prefers stability over extremes. After a happy event, excitement fades as the brain lowers activity back to its usual level. After a stressful event, calming systems slowly reduce tension. This return to baseline helps protect long-term health. It prevents burnout from too much joy or too much fear. Research shows that even after major life changes, many people slowly move back toward their typical mood level. This does not mean feelings are fake. It means they are temporary by design. Your brain wants balance more than intensity. Understanding this can be relaxing. If emotions naturally settle over time, maybe you do not need to control every feeling. Maybe your system already knows how to restore calm. One famous study compared lottery winners and people who survived serious accidents. At first, you might expect a huge difference in long-term happiness. Lottery winners suddenly had money, freedom, and comfort. Accident survivors faced pain and life changes. In the early months, emotions were very different. Winners felt intense excitement. Survivors felt deep distress. But over time, something surprising happened. Many lottery winners returned close to their previous happiness level. Many accident survivors also returned closer to their earlier emotional state than expected. This does not mean both groups felt the same. It means the brain slowly adjusted in both cases. The excitement of winning faded. The shock of injury softened. This research supports the idea of emotional baseline. It shows that big events do not permanently lock in happiness or sadness. So what inside the brain manages this emotional balance? A large part of emotional balance is controlled by the prefrontal cortex. This area is located behind your forehead. It helps you think clearly, plan, and control impulses. Most importantly, it helps regulate emotions. When something stressful happens, the prefrontal cortex can calm down emotional reactions. It does this by evaluating the situation logically. For example, if you hear a loud noise, your body may react with fear. But your prefrontal cortex checks the facts. It might realize the sound was just a door closing. Then it signals the body to relax. This area works like a manager. It does not stop emotions from happening, but it guides them. Strong emotional health often depends on how well this system functions. But if this part regulates emotions, what part creates the first wave of fear? That first wave often comes from the amygdala. The amygdala is a small structure deep inside the brain. Its main job is threat detection. It scans your environment for danger even before you are fully aware of it. If it senses risk, it sends fast signals to activate stress responses. Your heart rate increases, muscles tighten, attention sharpens. This reaction helped humans survive in dangerous environments. The amygdala works quickly because survival requires speed. However, in modern life, it can overreact to non-dangerous situations like social stress or uncertainty. When this happens often, people feel anxious or tense. The brain would rather prepare for danger than miss a real threat. This leads to an important idea. What if the brain cares more about safety than pleasure? When you look closely at how the brain works, one pattern becomes clear. Its main goal is not pleasure, it is safety. If the brain senses danger, happiness chemicals decrease. Stress chemicals increase. Only when the brain feels safe does it allow calm and satisfaction to grow. This explains why people struggle to feel happy during uncertain or stressful times, even if good things are happening. The nervous system must feel secure first. Pleasure becomes possible only after safety is confirmed. This also explains why stable routines, trusted relationships, and predictable environments feel comforting. They signal safety. Happiness is not the brain's first priority. Survival is. Once survival feels secure, then the system can relax. And when it relaxes, that quiet state is often what we call true happiness. When stress becomes constant, it changes how your brain functions. Chronic stress keeps the body in survival mode. Stress hormones like cortisol stay high for long periods. This blocks the release of chemicals linked to calm and contentment. The brain focuses on protection, not pleasure. When you are worried about money, health, or conflict, your system stays alert. In this state, dopamine may still push you to act, but serotonin and oxytocin often decrease. This makes it harder to feel stable or connected. Over time, chronic stress can also weaken the prefrontal cortex, making emotional control more difficult. It becomes harder to think clearly or feel relaxed. This is why people under long-term pressure often say they feel numb or exhausted instead of happy. If stress blocks happiness chemistry, what system helps restore balance? The body has a built-in calming system called the parasympathetic nervous system. This system works opposite to the stress response. When it activates, heart rate slows, muscles relax, and digestion improves. It tells the body that danger has passed. You can think of it as the brake pedal for your stress system. When the parasympathetic system is strong, recovery from stress happens faster. Sleep improves. Mood becomes more stable. The body repairs itself more efficiently. Many calming activities like gentle movement, warm showers, or quiet time in nature activate this system. It does not create excitement, it creates safety. And safety is the foundation of emotional balance. But how can you activate this calming system on purpose? One of the simplest ways to activate the parasympathetic system is slow breathing. When you breathe slowly and deeply, especially through the nose, signals travel through the vagus nerve to the brain. These signals reduce heart rate and lower stress hormones. Slow breathing tells your nervous system that you are not in danger. Even if your mind feels busy, controlled breathing can shift your body into a calmer state. Research shows that longer exhales are especially powerful for relaxation. This is why breathing exercises are often used to reduce anxiety. The body responds to rhythm. When breathing becomes steady, the brain follows. Calm breathing can change emotional state within minutes. This leads to a powerful idea. What if happiness is not something you add to your life, but something that appears when threat is removed? Predictability plays a bigger role in happiness than most people realize. The nervous system relaxes when it can predict what will happen next. Routine reduces uncertainty. When you wake up at the same time, eat at regular hours, and follow familiar patterns, your brain uses less energy scanning for danger. It understands the environment. This lowers stress signals and supports emotional balance. Children feel safer with routines, but adults are no different. Even simple habits like a morning walk or evening tea create signals of stability. The brain prefers patterns because patterns mean safety. When life becomes chaotic and unpredictable, stress increases, even if nothing is directly wrong. That is why sudden changes can feel uncomfortable. If routine creates stability, what internal clock inside you responds to these patterns every day? Your body follows a natural 24-hour cycle called the circadian rhythm. This internal clock controls sleep, energy, hormones, and mood. It tells you when to feel alert and when to feel tired. When your circadian rhythm is balanced, your body releases chemicals at the right time. Cortisol rises in the morning to wake you up. Melatonin increases at night to help you sleep. When this rhythm is disturbed by irregular sleep or late-night screen use, mood often becomes unstable. You may feel more irritable or low. A regular sleep schedule helps the brain regulate emotional chemicals more smoothly. Stability in sleep often leads to stability in mood. But what simple natural factor helps set this internal clock every single day? Sunlight is one of the strongest signals for your circadian rhythm. When natural light enters your eyes in the morning, it tells your brain that the day has started. This triggers the release of serotonin, which supports focus and emotional balance. Later in the day, serotonin helps convert into melatonin for sleep. Without enough sunlight, serotonin levels may drop and mood can decline. This is why people often feel better after spending time outdoors. Even 15 to 30 minutes of morning light can improve mood over time. It is a simple biological effect, not just a psychological one. Light acts as a reset signal for your internal systems. If light changes mood, what happens when you add natural surroundings to the experience? Spending time in nature has been shown to reduce cortisol, the main stress hormone. Trees, open spaces, and natural sounds create an environment that signals safety to the brain. Unlike busy city settings filled with noise and fast movement, nature has slower patterns. Studies show that even short walks in green areas can lower heart rate and reduce tension. The brain does not need to process as much threat information in natural settings. This gives the nervous system time to recover. Nature exposure also improves focus and emotional clarity. It is not only about fresh air. It is about giving your brain a break from constant stimulation. When stress hormones decrease, calming chemicals can rise again. So could happiness be closer to simple environments than complex ones? Repetitive tasks often feel surprisingly soothing, even if they seem boring at first. When you perform a task the same way multiple times, your brain enters a predictable rhythm. This reduces mental effort because your nervous system knows what to expect. It does not need to scan for unexpected threats or surprises. For example, folding laundry, washing dishes, or walking a familiar path can create a gentle sense of calm. The physical motion combined with predictable patterns signals safety to your brain. It allows focus without constant worry, giving the mind a small break from thinking about future problems. Repetition also triggers small releases of dopamine as you complete each step, providing tiny rewards that encourage continuation. Over time, This explains why simple routines feel relaxing and satisfying. Even when nothing exciting happens, your system quietly tells you that everything is under control. If repetition calms the mind, what happens when small achievements are noticed? Micro-wins are tiny accomplishments that create a feeling of progress. Completing even small tasks like answering emails, finishing a workout, or finishing a paragraph gives the brain signals of competence. These small successes activate reward pathways without overwhelming the system. The effect is cumulative. Many micro-wins throughout the day create a sense of productivity and purpose. Unlike big achievements, which may bring short bursts of excitement that fade quickly, micro-wins reinforce stability and confidence over time. This is why people often feel happier on days when they complete small goals consistently. Each small success builds trust in your ability to manage life. Over time, these moments support emotional balance and satisfaction. The brain notices progress more than grand gestures. When competence increases, calm and contentment follow. But feeling capable also depends on the environment around you. Cleaning or organizing your space is more than just tidying up. When you remove clutter and put things in order, your brain perceives control over your environment. Control is a key factor in feeling safe and calm. Messy spaces create subtle stress because the brain unconsciously scans for disorder and potential problems. By organizing, you reduce this stress signal. You also get visible evidence that you are capable of managing life's details. Completing these tasks provides micro-wins and reinforces competence. Even small changes, like clearing a desk or arranging a shelf, can create noticeable calm. The effect is not only psychological. The nervous system responds to the signals of order and predictability. A controlled environment allows the brain to focus on higher-level thinking rather than constant alertness. If managing your space increases calm, what about feeling safe emotionally? Psychological safety is the sense that you can express yourself without fear of negative consequences. It is the emotional version of environmental control. In workplaces, relationships, or social groups, psychological safety allows people to speak up, share ideas, or ask questions without fear of judgment or punishment. When people feel safe, stress hormones decrease and oxytocin can rise. The brain perceives the environment as supportive rather than threatening. This sense of safety allows creativity, learning, and growth. When psychological safety is lacking, people remain on high alert even if nothing is actively dangerous. They may censor themselves, avoid risks, or feel anxious constantly. Feeling safe in relationships and social situations is as important for long-term happiness as controlling your physical environment. When emotional safety exists, calming systems activate, setting the stage for genuine contentment. Quiet environments help the brain recover from emotional stress in a way that busy, noisy places cannot. When your surroundings are calm, your nervous system receives signals that there is no immediate danger. Sounds like traffic, alarms, or constant chatter require the brain to stay alert, which keeps stress hormones active. In contrast, quiet spaces reduce stimulation and allow the parasympathetic system to activate. This helps lower heart rate, ease muscle tension, and promote relaxation. In such spaces, your mind can process emotions without interference, which improves mood and clarity. Even small amounts of quiet time, like sitting alone for 10 minutes or turning off notifications, allow recovery from minor daily stressors. Your emotional system becomes more resilient over time. Quiet does not create happiness by itself, but it allows your body and mind to restore balance. If quiet spaces help recovery, then perhaps peace is built more from small choices than dramatic changes. This leads to an important idea. Small habits often create more peace than big achievements. While major goals and milestones can bring bursts of satisfaction, their effects are usually short-lived. In contrast, small daily habits, like mindful breathing, journaling, or going for a short walk, provide consistent signals to the brain that life is manageable and safe. Each small action reinforces competence, stability, and calm. Over time, these habits accumulate, creating a steady foundation of emotional balance that big achievements alone cannot provide. Large successes often fade in their impact, but small habits repeatedly support your nervous system. The brain rewards consistency, predictability, and control more than rare moments of excitement. This explains why people with simple routines often feel calmer and happier than those chasing constant highs. If small habits are so powerful, how do relationships play into this balance? Attachment theory helps explain why relationships are critical to happiness. From early childhood, humans form patterns of connection with caregivers, which shape how they relate to others throughout life. These attachment patterns influence trust, security, and emotional regulation. Secure attachments occur when caregivers respond consistently to needs, providing safety and support. Insecure attachments, on the other hand, form when responses are unpredictable, absent, or inconsistent, often leading to anxiety or avoidance in relationships. Understanding attachment theory gives insight into why some people feel safe and calm with others, while some constantly worry about rejection. Early connection patterns affect emotional stability even in adulthood, influencing how you react to stress and seek comfort. The way you bond early in life sets the stage for future well-being. But what exactly does secure attachment do for emotional stability? Secure attachment provides a foundation for emotional balance and resilience. When people feel securely connected, they trust that their needs will be met and that others can be relied upon. This sense of safety reduces constant anxiety and allows exploration, learning, and growth. Securely attached individuals can experience strong emotions without being overwhelmed because their nervous system knows support is available. They can recover from stress more quickly and feel calmer in challenging situations. These early patterns shape adult relationships as well. People with secure attachment communicate clearly, manage conflict effectively, and maintain trust. Emotional stability comes from knowing that support exists, which lowers stress responses and promotes the release of calming chemicals like oxytocin. Secure attachment essentially teaches the brain that the environment is safe, making it easier to experience contentment. Loneliness affects the brain in ways that go beyond feeling sad. Studies show that being socially isolated can activate the same brain circuits as physical pain. The brain processes social rejection or isolation similarly to how it processes injury. That is why feeling lonely can feel physically uncomfortable, even exhausting. It increases stress hormones like cortisol and can raise blood pressure over time. Chronic loneliness is linked to higher risks of heart problems, weakened immunity, and even shorter lifespan. From an evolutionary perspective, humans survived better in groups, so isolation signals danger to the brain. The nervous system interprets disconnection as a threat, triggering both mental and physical stress. Understanding this helps explain why social connection feels so calming and rewarding. The absence of connection is not just emotional, it is biological. If loneliness can create pain, then connection must have a powerful opposite effect. This opposite effect can be seen in co-regulation between humans. Co-regulation happens when one person's calmness or emotional state influences another's. For example, when a parent speaks softly to a child or gently holds them, the child's heart rate slows and breathing steadies. Adults experience this too. When people are together, emotional signals like tone, expressions, and body language synchronize, helping reduce stress. The nervous system literally adjusts based on social cues. When someone smiles or speaks calmly, your brain responds with reduced stress hormones. Co-regulation shows that humans do not experience emotions in isolation. Our brains and bodies respond to others. This is why trusted relationships and safe social interactions are critical for happiness. If co-regulation exists, how does the brain recognize and respond to others so automatically? Mirror neurons help explain this automatic response. Mirror neurons are special brain cells that fire both when you perform an action and when you see someone else perform the same action. They allow you to empathize and understand others' feelings intuitively. When someone smiles, laughs, or reacts emotionally, mirror neurons activate in your own brain, creating a sense of shared experience. This is why watching someone else's excitement can make you feel excited, or seeing distress can make you feel tense. Mirror neurons allow humans to learn, empathize, and respond socially without conscious thought. They are a biological foundation for understanding and connecting with others. If the brain mirrors others' emotions, this may explain why even simple gestures can influence our mood so powerfully. Smiling is a perfect example of this neurological effect. When you see someone smile, mirror neurons activate in your brain, and your facial muscles often unconsciously mimic the expression. This simple mimicry sends signals to your nervous system that promote positive emotions and reduce stress. Smiling literally spreads happiness because the brain interprets it as safety, friendliness, and connection. This is why seeing others smile can lift your mood almost instantly. It also explains why group environments with positive energy feel energizing and safe. The contagious nature of smiling shows that happiness is not only chemical or internal, it is social and interactive. Connection with others can literally shift your biology toward calm and contentment. Humans have evolved to survive in groups, which makes social belonging more than a comfort. It is a biological necessity. In early human history, being part of a group increased chances of finding food, staying safe from predators, and caring for children. Those who were isolated faced greater danger and were less likely to survive. The brain still carries this wiring today. Feeling included in a group triggers calming chemicals like oxytocin and serotonin, while exclusion activates stress responses. This explains why social rejection can feel physically painful. Belonging satisfies both safety and emotional needs. Even small gestures of inclusion, being invited to a meal, acknowledged at work, or accepted by friends, signal that the brain is safe. Evolution taught humans that connection matters more than individual strength. This foundation shows why happiness is often tied to relationships rather than possessions or achievements. If belonging is essential for survival, what helps these connections deepen and become reliable? Gratitude is one of the strongest ways humans strengthen social bonds. Expressing appreciation signals to others that they are valued and trusted. When you thank someone sincerely, it increases oxytocin in both your brain and theirs, which strengthens connection. Gratitude also encourages reciprocity, making people more likely to support each other in the future. Even noticing the small positive actions of others can create a sense of closeness and emotional security. Gratitude shifts focus from what is missing to what is present, reducing stress and improving mood. It is not just a polite habit, it is a biological signal that reinforces cooperation and belonging. Over time, practicing gratitude consistently builds stronger relationships, which are essential for long-term happiness. When connections feel secure, your nervous system relaxes naturally. If gratitude strengthens bonds, What is the deeper factor that makes connections truly safe? Emotional trust is the sense that you can rely on someone to respond with care and understanding. It is more than just believing someone will keep a promise. It is believing that they will support you when needed and will not cause harm. Emotional trust lowers stress because the nervous system no longer needs to stay alert for threats. It allows vulnerability, communication, and deeper bonds. People with high emotional trust experience more oxytocin release during interactions, which supports calm and contentment. When trust is missing, relationships often feel tense, and even small disagreements can create anxiety. Emotional trust is built over time through consistency, reliability, and responsiveness. This sense of safety in relationships is one of the most important foundations for happiness. When emotional trust exists, the brain can relax and enjoy social connection fully. But why can just one safe person have such a profound effect on our well-being? A single safe person can change everything because the nervous system uses that relationship as a signal of security. When one person consistently provides support, kindness, and understanding, the brain registers that at least one source of safety exists, even if other parts of life feel uncertain. This presence reduces stress hormones, increases oxytocin, and allows the prefrontal cortex to function more effectively. People often describe feeling anchored by just one trustworthy relationship. This person can buffer negative emotions, making challenges feel more manageable. The effect is so strong because the brain evolved to survive with social support. One reliable connection tells the nervous system that it is not alone, creating calm and stability. Happiness often emerges not from many connections, but from the presence of at least one person who makes you feel completely safe. Perceived control has a powerful effect on reducing anxiety and supporting happiness. When people feel that they can influence events in their life, their brain interprets situations as less threatening. This lowers stress hormones like cortisol and allows the nervous system to relax. Even small actions like organizing your day, completing tasks, or planning ahead create a sense of control. When control is absent, the brain responds as if danger is present, triggering alertness and worry. Studies show that people with higher perceived control experience fewer physical and emotional symptoms of stress. The effect is not only psychological. The body's chemical systems respond directly to control signals. Feeling capable and able to respond to challenges is deeply satisfying. This is why people often feel calmer when they plan, prepare, and take initiative in daily life. If control lowers stress, what framework explains how people interpret control in the first place? Locus of control is a concept that helps explain how people perceive control over their lives. Those with an internal locus of control believe that their actions directly influence outcomes. They see themselves as active agents capable of shaping their experiences. In contrast, people with an external locus of control feel that events happen because of luck, fate, or other people. They may feel powerless or anxious because they believe they cannot influence results. Research shows that an internal locus of control is associated with lower stress and higher life satisfaction. The brain reacts positively when it senses agency, and cortisol levels decrease. Understanding where your sense of control comes from can guide behavior, help reduce anxiety, and improve emotional stability. But how can this sense of control be strengthened day by day? One of the simplest ways to strengthen perceived control is through small decisions. Choosing what to eat, when to exercise, or what task to tackle first may seem minor, but each decision reinforces autonomy. The nervous system registers that you are an active participant in your life rather than a passive observer. Making choices also improves confidence and reduces feelings of helplessness. Over time, these small acts build a habit of noticing that your actions have an effect. Autonomy is psychologically comforting because it signals that you can respond effectively to challenges. Even in situations that feel largely out of your control, focusing on small, manageable decisions restores a sense of agency and stability. If small choices influence calm, what about bigger, practical foundations like money? Financial stability is another major factor in reducing stress and supporting happiness. When basic needs like food, housing, and utilities are consistently met, the brain perceives safety. Uncertainty about money triggers stress responses, keeping cortisol high and preventing calm from taking hold. When finances are stable, people can focus on long-term goals, relationships, and personal growth rather than constant worry. Budgeting, saving, and planning create predictability, which supports both the nervous system and emotional well-being. The sense of security from having resources available gives space for contentment to grow. Conversely, financial instability often causes chronic stress, anxiety, and tension in relationships. Happiness is not about wealth itself, but about having sufficient control and predictability to feel safe in life. Competence theory, also called self-determination theory, explains why people feel motivated and satisfied when they can master tasks. It suggests that humans have three basic needs: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Competence is the need to feel effective and capable in what you do. When people feel competent, their brain releases rewarding chemicals, making them feel capable and confident. This motivates them to continue learning and taking on challenges. Without a sense of competence, even small tasks can feel frustrating or meaningless. When competence is nurtured, it creates steady emotional satisfaction, not just short bursts of excitement. It also encourages growth, skill building, and problem solving. Feeling capable doesn't require grand achievements. Even everyday mastery over tasks can satisfy this need. Understanding competence helps explain why learning, practicing, and accomplishing small goals can make life feel meaningful and emotionally stable. The three pillars of happiness in self-determination theory, autonomy, competence, and relatedness, work together to support well-being. Autonomy is the sense that you can make choices in your life. Competence is feeling capable of handling tasks effectively. Relatedness is the feeling of being connected to others and valued in relationships. When all three are present, the nervous system registers safety, and the brain releases chemicals that promote calm and satisfaction. A lack in any pillar can create stress. For example, feeling capable but isolated may leave you lonely, while strong connections without autonomy may feel controlling. These pillars explain why balanced lives, with meaningful work, choice, and connection, tend to produce long-term happiness. Meeting these needs is more important for emotional stability than external rewards like money or status. Together, they create a foundation for deep, sustainable contentment. Learned helplessness occurs when people experience repeated situations where they feel unable to control outcomes. Over time, the brain begins to expect failure and stops trying to change things, even when opportunities exist. This state often leads to emotional fatigue, low motivation, and persistent anxiety. Stress chemicals remain high because the nervous system perceives ongoing threats without solutions. Learned helplessness explains why people in challenging situations sometimes stop taking action, even when options are available. It also shows the importance of small successes and perceived control. By achieving small wins, people can gradually rebuild a sense of agency, retraining the brain to recognize possibilities. Emotional fatigue is reduced when the nervous system regains signals of competence and safety. This process reinforces how perception of control directly affects happiness. Progress, even in small steps, triggers the brain's internal reward systems. When you notice improvement, whether learning a skill, completing a task, or reaching a goal, dopamine signals motivate and reward your efforts. This sense of progress creates satisfaction beyond the immediate achievement. It gives the brain evidence that actions have impact, reinforcing autonomy and competence. Even tiny improvements, like writing a paragraph, organizing a room, or finishing a workout, send feedback to the brain that you are capable and effective. This encourages continued effort and builds momentum toward larger goals. Progress not only feels good chemically, but also strengthens long-term motivation and emotional stability. The nervous system interprets movement forward as safety and competence, showing that steady growth, more than sudden success, supports lasting contentment. Long-term goals play a crucial role in building happiness because they give direction and purpose to daily life. When you set a meaningful goal, your brain starts tracking progress, even in small steps. Each step forward releases dopamine, giving you motivation and satisfaction before the final result is achieved. Long-term goals also provide context for challenges, making obstacles feel manageable instead of overwhelming. The nervous system interprets working towards something important as a sign of competence and control. Unlike short-term pleasures that fade quickly, long-term goals create a sustained sense of purpose and achievement. They help connect daily routines, small habits, and efforts into a larger story, which supports emotional stability. The satisfaction comes from the journey as much as the outcome. Even if the final goal takes months or years, the brain receives repeated rewards along the way, reinforcing calm and contentment. This brings up an important question. Why does progress often feel better than success? Achieving a goal creates a burst of happiness, but it usually fades quickly as the brain adapts. Progress, on the other hand, provides repeated small rewards that keep the nervous system engaged and motivated. Each forward step releases dopamine, reinforcing competence and autonomy. Progress also gives a sense of control, showing that your actions have meaning. When people focus solely on the end result, they often overlook the small achievements that build confidence and calm. By celebrating progress, even tiny improvements, the brain experiences consistent reinforcement. This repeated reward pattern creates steady contentment, unlike sudden success, which the brain quickly normalizes. Focusing on progress rather than only the final outcome keeps motivation high, reduces anxiety, and strengthens long-term happiness. The arrival fallacy explains why reaching a big goal often brings less happiness than expected. People imagine that achieving a dream job, wealth, or recognition will permanently solve their unhappiness. But research shows that the excitement of arriving is short-lived. Once the brain adjusts to the new reality, emotions return to baseline. This is because happiness depends more on daily systems like routines, relationships, and perceived control than on isolated events. The arrival fallacy shows that chasing goals without noticing small wins and personal growth can backfire. Success feels good temporarily, but without ongoing progress or meaningful habits, contentment fades quickly. The nervous system registers the arrival, but long-term happiness requires consistent signals of safety, competence, and connection. Understanding this helps people focus on the journey rather than assuming a single achievement will change everything. Career success research supports the idea of emotional plateaus. Studies of professionals who reach high levels of achievement, like promotions, high salaries, or prestigious positions, show that initial excitement fades after a few months. Many report returning to similar levels of happiness as before the achievement. This plateau happens because the brain quickly normalizes new circumstances, a process called adaptation. The nervous system reduces stress once the goal is reached, but the chemical reward systems also adjust, reducing the intensity of joy. This explains why external achievements alone rarely produce lasting happiness. Long-term contentment relies on ongoing growth, social connection, and habits that promote stability and competence. Understanding emotional plateaus encourages people to value progress, daily routines, and meaningful connections, instead of expecting permanent fulfillment from a single career milestone. Social comparison theory explains how humans naturally measure their own lives against others. From an evolutionary perspective, comparing yourself helped assess resources, status, and social safety. Today, this mechanism still exists, but it often works against happiness. People look at peers, coworkers, or even strangers online, measuring income, appearance, achievements, or lifestyle. The brain interprets these comparisons as threats or advantages, triggering stress or envy when others appear better off. Even positive achievements can feel smaller if someone else seems to have more. Social comparison shifts attention away from your own progress and stability, which are key sources of contentment. The nervous system reacts as if the comparison signals danger, increasing cortisol and reducing calming chemicals. This is why constantly checking social media or observing others' success can reduce emotional satisfaction. Understanding that comparison is a natural, but often misleading, brain habit helps explain why happiness is more internal than external. If comparison reduces joy, what keeps people trapped in constant chasing? The hedonic treadmill describes how humans quickly return to a baseline level of happiness, no matter the gains or losses they experience. When people acquire new possessions, earn promotions, or reach major milestones, they often feel a burst of happiness. However, this excitement fades as the brain adapts to the new situation. The nervous system treats the new normal as ordinary, prompting people to seek the next reward. This cycle can create a constant loop of striving, where satisfaction is temporary and always followed by desire for more. The hedonic treadmill shows why chasing external pleasures alone rarely leads to lasting happiness. It is not that achievements or rewards are meaningless. They do provide short-term satisfaction, but the brain is wired to normalize them quickly. Recognizing this helps people focus on internal systems, habits, and relationships that support stable, long-term contentment. Material adaptation is closely tied to the hedonic treadmill. It explains why people quickly get used to new possessions or experiences. Buying a new car, upgrading a phone, or moving into a nicer home initially feels exciting. But after days or weeks, the novelty fades and the brain treats it as normal. The chemicals that produced pleasure diminish, leaving the nervous system back at baseline. This explains why accumulating things or constantly improving status rarely creates long-term happiness. Adaptation is protective. It prevents overstimulation and keeps the nervous system balanced. However, it also teaches an important lesson. Lasting contentment does not come from external objects alone. Instead, stability, competence, meaningful routines, and social connections produce a steady sense of well-being. Understanding material adaptation shifts focus from acquiring more to cultivating systems that consistently support emotional calm. Minimalism is more than a design trend. It has a real impact on the brain and happiness. When you reduce clutter and simplify your surroundings, you lower the number of things your brain has to process. Every object, task, or notification requires mental energy, even if you are not consciously aware of it. By having fewer possessions or commitments, your cognitive load decreases, allowing the nervous system to rest. Minimalism helps the brain focus on what truly matters, like meaningful activities, relationships, and goals. It also signals control and order, which lowers stress responses. People living simpler lives often report feeling calmer and more satisfied because their environment does not constantly demand attention. The principle is clear. The brain prefers clarity over complexity. If reducing clutter supports calm, what happens when the brain faces too many decisions? Decision fatigue occurs when the brain becomes tired from making too many choices. Each decision, no matter how small, requires mental effort and uses cognitive resources. Over time, the ability to make good decisions decreases and stress increases. People may feel overwhelmed, procrastinate, or make poor choices simply because the nervous system is exhausted. This is why routines, habits, and simplifying daily options improve emotional stability. By reducing unnecessary decisions, the brain can focus on meaningful tasks and respond calmly to challenges. Decision fatigue explains why complex modern life often feels stressful despite material comfort. Even seemingly small choices, like what to wear or what to eat, accumulate and burden the nervous system. Recognizing this effect shows why simplicity can directly improve mental health. But how does simplicity go beyond just reducing fatigue? Simplicity lowers stress hormones in multiple ways. A minimal environment, predictable routines, and fewer decisions signal safety to the nervous system. When the brain does not need to constantly scan for threats or manage overwhelming input, cortisol levels drop. Heart rate slows, muscles relax, and the parasympathetic system can activate fully. Simplicity also allows focus on rewarding activities, relationships, and progress, which release serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin. The nervous system interprets simplicity as control and predictability, essential for long-term calm. This explains why people often feel more peaceful living with less, even if they give up luxury or convenience. Stress is not caused by lack of things. It comes from uncertainty, clutter, and overload. Understanding this helps reframe what actually produces happiness. If more doesn't create happiness, what actually does? The answer lies in systems that support emotional balance rather than external gains. Habits, routines, social connection, progress, competence, autonomy, and safety all activate the brain's natural reward and calming systems. Happiness emerges when the nervous system feels secure. The brain sees competence, and social bonds provide support. It is not about reaching a milestone, acquiring possessions, or chasing constant pleasure. True contentment grows from predictable routines, small wins, meaningful relationships, calm environments, and internal signals of control. By focusing on these internal and relational systems rather than external accumulation, the brain experiences steady chemical balance. Real happiness is subtle, cumulative, and sustainable. It comes from repeated, reliable signals that life is manageable, safe, and connected, not from chasing ever more things or achievements. Meaning and pleasure are two very different paths to happiness, and the distinction is important. Pleasure is immediate and sensory. Eating tasty food, watching a movie, or receiving a compliment. It gives short-term bursts of dopamine but fades quickly. Meaning, on the other hand, comes from living in line with values, contributing to others, and pursuing goals larger than oneself. Meaning often requires effort, patience, and sometimes sacrifice, but it produces lasting satisfaction. While pleasure feels good for a moment, it does not stabilize the nervous system or create deep emotional balance. Meaning provides context for challenges, helping the brain interpret difficulties as part of a larger story rather than threats. People who focus on meaning experience stronger resilience, lower stress, and steadier calm than those chasing pleasure alone. Understanding the difference between meaning and pleasure shifts attention from fleeting enjoyment to sustainable well-being. But how can people discover meaning even in the hardest circumstances? Viktor Frankl's logotherapy offers an answer by emphasizing that humans can find meaning even in suffering. Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, observed that those who found purpose in life, even in extreme adversity, were more likely to survive and maintain psychological well-being. Logotherapy suggests that life's meaning is discovered, not given. It can be found through work, relationships, creativity, or how one responds to unavoidable suffering. By focusing on purpose, individuals activate the brain's calming and reward systems, even under stress. Frankl's insight shows that meaning is not dependent on comfort or external success. It is internal and can transform perspective, reducing feelings of helplessness. This approach highlights that happiness and emotional stability are deeply connected to perceived significance in life, not merely to pleasure or achievement. If purpose can buffer suffering, how exactly does it protect emotional health? Purpose buffers suffering because it gives context to challenges, making them feel manageable rather than overwhelming. When people understand why they are enduring difficulty, or what a situation contributes to a larger goal, the nervous system interprets the stress as meaningful rather than threatening. This reduces cortisol, eases anxiety, and allows the parasympathetic system to activate. Purpose also motivates action. Rather than feeling helpless, individuals focus on steps they can take, which reinforces competence and control. People with strong purpose recover from setbacks more quickly and maintain emotional stability during uncertainty. Even small daily acts aligned with meaningful goals can provide these protective effects. Purpose signals to the brain that effort is worthwhile, and challenges are part of a coherent story. In this way, meaning transforms suffering from a source of distress into a tool for growth and calm. Research on long-term life satisfaction confirms that purpose and meaning outweigh fleeting pleasures or material gains. Studies tracking people over decades show that individuals who pursue meaningful goals, contribute to their communities, and maintain strong relationships report higher happiness and health than those focused solely on wealth, status, or sensory enjoyment. Long-term life satisfaction is closely linked to habits that support competence, autonomy, and social connection. External successes, like promotions, awards, or luxury, produce temporary excitement, but satisfaction plateaus without ongoing meaning. The nervous system stabilizes when life aligns with purpose, predictable routines, and supportive social bonds. This research shows that true, sustained contentment is cumulative, emerging from daily actions and choices that reinforce meaning. Happiness is not a single event but a long-term pattern of internal and relational stability. People who prioritize meaning experience steady emotional balance, resilience, and calm throughout life. Narrative identity theory explains that humans make sense of their lives by creating a story about themselves. We naturally organize experiences, challenges, successes, and failures into a personal narrative. This story provides coherence and purpose, helping the brain interpret events as meaningful rather than random or threatening. By understanding life as a continuous story, people gain perspective on challenges, see patterns in growth, and integrate past experiences into identity. Narrative identity also supports emotional stability because the brain perceives continuity and control over time. Without a coherent story, life can feel chaotic, and stress responses may remain high. Creating a personal narrative allows the nervous system to categorize experiences safely, providing a sense of calm and competence. The way you interpret your life events, the story you tell yourself, shapes how you feel emotionally and motivates future action. If humans need a story, what makes it so critical for well-being? Humans need a story about themselves because it provides a framework for understanding who they are, where they have been, and where they are going. A clear self-narrative integrates experiences, values, and goals, creating a sense of identity and stability. This story helps the brain predict outcomes and interpret challenges as part of a meaningful journey rather than random threats. When people see themselves as growing, learning, and overcoming obstacles, their nervous system relaxes and they experience calm and motivation. Without a coherent story, uncertainty dominates and stress remains high. The story we tell ourselves also influences decisions, relationships, and emotional resilience. By actively shaping your personal narrative, you can highlight strengths, recognize growth, and frame setbacks as temporary. Life becomes less threatening and more manageable. This storytelling instinct is powerful, but it becomes even more transformative after facing adversity. Growth after adversity occurs when people overcome challenges and integrate the lessons learned into their lives. Experiencing hardship often forces reflection, adaptation, and reevaluation of priorities. Overcoming difficulty strengthens competence, resilience, and emotional regulation. The brain learns that challenges are manageable, which lowers stress responses in future stressful situations. This process is why many people report feeling stronger, wiser, or more focused after difficult periods. Growth is not automatic. It requires conscious reflection, support, and action. Even small changes in mindset, recognizing progress, learning from mistakes, or helping others, can turn adversity into a source of lasting satisfaction. The nervous system gradually shifts from threat-focused responses to signals of safety and capability. Adversity, when processed effectively, strengthens both internal systems and social connections, creating a foundation for more stable happiness. This concept directly leads to post-traumatic growth. Post-traumatic growth describes the positive psychological changes that can occur after severe challenges or trauma. Unlike resilience, which is simply returning to baseline, post-traumatic growth involves improvement beyond prior functioning. People often develop a greater appreciation for life, stronger relationships, increased personal strength, and clearer priorities. The nervous system gradually interprets the world as safer after navigating trauma successfully, while the brain reinforces competence, meaning, and control. Growth also fosters empathy and purpose, connecting individuals more deeply to others. Post-traumatic growth shows that suffering, while painful, can catalyze lasting development in emotional stability and life satisfaction. It demonstrates that happiness is not just about avoiding difficulties, but about learning, adapting, and integrating experiences into a meaningful story. Life challenges, when processed effectively, can transform the nervous system and identity, producing a deeper, more resilient contentment. Resilience is the ability to bounce back from adversity, and it actually rewires how the brain processes emotions. When people face challenges and recover successfully, neural pathways strengthen in ways that improve emotional regulation. The prefrontal cortex, which manages decision-making and self-control, becomes better at calming the amygdala, the brain's threat detector. Over time, the nervous system learns to respond more calmly to stress because it has experienced that danger can be managed. This rewiring reduces anxiety, lowers chronic stress hormones, and enhances overall emotional stability. Resilience also reinforces confidence and competence, signaling to the brain that effort leads to effective outcomes. People with stronger resilience tend to experience setbacks with less fear and recover faster from disappointment. Essentially, the brain learns from experience, turning hardship into training for future challenges. If resilience rewires the brain, why do people often feel stronger after hardship? People often feel stronger after hardship because overcoming difficulties strengthens both the mind and body. Challenges force the nervous system to adapt, improving emotional regulation and problem-solving skills. Each success in navigating adversity reinforces competence, autonomy, and confidence. Hardship also reshapes perspective, helping people recognize priorities, appreciate life more, and value relationships. The brain interprets survived challenges as evidence of capability, which increases motivation and calm in future stressful situations. Hormones and neurotransmitters adjust as well, making stress responses less extreme over time. Essentially, the nervous system remembers that danger can be managed, creating both psychological and physiological resilience. This is why people often report feeling more capable, focused, and grounded after facing serious life events. The strength gained is not just emotional, it is deeply biological, preparing the brain and body for future challenges. The gut-brain connection is a powerful influence on emotions and well-being. The brain and digestive system communicate constantly through the vagus nerve, hormones, and chemical signals. Signals from the gut affect mood, motivation, and stress responses. For example, when digestion is poor or gut inflammation is present, it can increase anxiety and irritability. Conversely, a healthy digestive system sends calming signals to the brain, helping the nervous system relax. This connection explains why people sometimes feel butterflies before stress or notice mood changes after certain meals. Nutrition, fiber, and gut-friendly habits directly impact emotional regulation because the gut produces neurotransmitters like serotonin. The gut-brain pathway highlights that happiness is not just in the mind, it is influenced by the body's internal systems. By supporting gut health, people can improve emotional stability and overall well-being. The microbiome, the trillions of bacteria living in the gut, has a profound effect on mood. These bacteria help produce neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, and GABA, which regulate calm, motivation, and pleasure. A balanced microbiome supports healthy chemical signaling between the gut and brain, reducing anxiety and improving emotional resilience. Poor gut health, whether from stress, diet, or illness, can disrupt this communication and increase stress responses. Research shows that certain probiotic-rich foods, fiber, and fermented products help maintain a healthy microbiome, which in turn improves mood stability. The nervous system responds to signals from gut bacteria, showing that emotional well-being is influenced not only by thoughts and environment, but also by internal biology. Understanding the microbiome reveals a surprising source of happiness. A healthy gut creates a calmer, more balanced mind, linking biology directly to long-term emotional health. Sleep plays a critical role in emotional regulation because it allows the brain and nervous system to reset. When people don't get enough sleep, the amygdala, the brain's threat detector, becomes overactive, making minor stressors feel overwhelming. The prefrontal cortex, which helps with decision-making and calming emotions, also functions less effectively when sleep-deprived. This imbalance increases anxiety, irritability, and negative thinking. Adequate sleep restores chemical balance, lowers stress hormones like cortisol, and supports serotonin and dopamine systems. Sleep is not just rest for the body, it is recovery for the mind. Even one night of poor sleep can make small problems feel larger, while consistent, quality sleep strengthens emotional resilience. People often underestimate how much sleep shapes mood, but the nervous system relies on it to maintain calm, process emotions, and support long-term happiness. If sleep restores emotional balance, certain stages are especially important for this effect. REM sleep, or rapid eye movement sleep, is a critical stage for processing emotions. During REM, the brain replays experiences and integrates emotional memories, helping people make sense of challenges and reduce emotional intensity. This stage also helps separate the emotional charge from memories, making stressful events feel less threatening over time. Neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine are active, supporting mood regulation and learning. REM sleep strengthens connections in the prefrontal cortex, improving decision-making and impulse control. People who lack sufficient REM sleep often feel more anxious, reactive, or emotionally fragile. By processing emotions while asleep, the nervous system restores balance without conscious effort, explaining why a good night's sleep can make problems feel more manageable in the morning. Understanding REM sleep shows that emotional resilience is actively built while we rest, not just while we are awake. Exercise has profound effects on the brain and emotional stability, partly through BDNF, or brain-derived neurotrophic factor. BDNF is a protein that supports brain cell growth, learning, and plasticity, which strengthens emotional regulation networks. Physical activity also releases endorphins, reduces cortisol, and improves serotonin signaling, all of which promote calm and happiness. Even moderate exercise, like walking or stretching, can enhance these effects. Regular exercise teaches the nervous system that the body is capable and safe, reinforcing competence and control. Beyond the chemical impact, exercise provides routine, purpose, and progress, all pillars of lasting happiness. People who exercise consistently often report feeling more resilient, less anxious, and more focused. BDNF and other neurochemicals show that movement is not just good for the body, it literally rewires the brain for emotional well-being. Posture influences hormones and emotional perception in subtle but powerful ways. Standing or sitting upright with an open chest signals confidence and can lower cortisol, the stress hormone, while increasing testosterone or other feelings of assertiveness. Slouched or closed postures can increase feelings of fatigue, stress, or low mood. The nervous system reads body position as a cue about safety, energy, and readiness, affecting both internal chemistry and external behavior. Maintaining good posture during daily activities can help reinforce calm, competence, and confidence. Posture also interacts with breathing. An upright position allows deeper, slower breaths, activating the parasympathetic system and further reducing stress. This demonstrates that the body and mind are connected. Small physical adjustments can have meaningful effects on the nervous system, hormone balance, and emotional resilience. Awareness of posture shows that happiness is shaped not only by thoughts, but by how we inhabit our bodies. The facial feedback hypothesis suggests that the expressions on our face can influence how we feel emotionally. When you smile, even without feeling happy, the muscles in your face send signals to the brain that trigger positive chemical responses like dopamine and serotonin. Similarly, frowning or slouching can reinforce stress or negative emotions. This feedback loop shows that body and mind are closely connected. What you physically do can shape how you feel. People often underestimate the power of simple facial movements. By intentionally adopting relaxed, positive expressions, the nervous system interprets the signals as safety and calm, reducing stress hormones and increasing feelings of contentment. This explains why laughter, social smiling, or even mimicking positive expressions can elevate mood naturally. The facial feedback hypothesis highlights that happiness is not only a mental state, but also a bodily one, giving practical tools to improve emotional stability with small, deliberate actions. Hydration is essential for both cognitive clarity and emotional balance. Even mild dehydration affects brain function, reducing attention, memory, and the ability to regulate emotions. The brain relies on water for neurotransmitter signaling, oxygen transport, and chemical balance. When hydration is low, cortisol increases, and the nervous system interprets this as stress, making people more irritable or anxious. Drinking enough water stabilizes these systems, improves focus, and supports calm emotional responses. Hydration also affects energy levels, digestion, and sleep, all of which influence mood indirectly. Small, consistent water intake throughout the day provides the nervous system with the stability it needs to regulate emotions efficiently. People often overlook this simple factor, but consistent hydration is a foundational element of biological and psychological well-being. It shows that subtle bodily conditions can have a large impact on happiness and mental resilience. Blood sugar stability plays a critical role in mood regulation. Rapid spikes and drops in glucose from sugary or processed foods can create irritability, anxiety, and fatigue. The brain relies on a steady supply of glucose to fuel neurotransmitter production and energy for the nervous system. When blood sugar drops suddenly, the brain perceives it as a stressor, triggering adrenaline and cortisol release. Maintaining stable blood sugar through balanced meals, fiber, protein, and healthy fats supports calm, focus, and emotional stability. People often underestimate how much fluctuations in energy affect mood. Stable glucose ensures that dopamine and serotonin systems operate efficiently, promoting natural feelings of contentment and reducing emotional swings. This connection highlights that what you consume directly interacts with brain chemistry and happiness. Consistency in diet creates predictability for the nervous system, which supports long-term well-being. Could happiness start in the body before the mind? Many insights suggest it does. The nervous system continuously monitors bodily signals, posture, hydration, facial expression, gut health, and blood sugar, and interprets them as safety, competence, or threat. When these systems are stable and well supported, the brain's emotional centers receive signals that conditions are safe, and happiness chemicals like serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin flow more efficiently. Conversely, physical stressors, fatigue, or imbalance can trigger anxiety even before conscious thought occurs. This perspective flips the usual assumption that happiness is purely a mental state. The body provides the foundation. By optimizing bodily conditions through sleep, nutrition, movement, hydration, posture, and facial expression, people give the nervous system the signals it needs to support calm and contentment. In other words, creating a happy mind often begins with taking care of the body first. Journaling and emotional labeling are simple yet powerful tools for emotional clarity. Writing down thoughts and feelings helps the brain organize and process experiences, turning vague stress or anxiety into defined, manageable emotions. Labeling emotions like "I feel frustrated" or "I feel anxious" activates the prefrontal cortex, which calms the amygdala, the brain's threat detector. This reduces emotional intensity and allows the nervous system to relax. Journaling also provides perspective, helping people notice patterns, triggers, and progress over time. By externalizing thoughts onto paper, the mind creates distance from overwhelming feelings, making challenges easier to navigate. People who journal regularly often experience improved mood, better problem solving, and enhanced emotional resilience. The act of writing is both reflective and therapeutic, providing the nervous system with cues of safety and competence. Emotional labeling through journaling is a practical way to process life events, giving structure to inner experiences and supporting long-term calm. Cognitive reframing is the practice of changing how you interpret situations to reduce stress and increase well-being. Instead of seeing a setback as failure, reframing encourages viewing it as a learning opportunity or a temporary challenge. This shifts the brain's perception from threat to manageable problem, reducing cortisol and anxiety. The nervous system responds to the new interpretation, allowing the prefrontal cortex to calm emotional centers. Reframing also strengthens resilience because it encourages problem-focused thinking and highlights what is within your control. It is a key tool for turning negative patterns into growth and competence signals. People who regularly practice cognitive reframing experience improved mood, better stress management, and more emotional stability. It shows that happiness is not only about external circumstances, but also about how the mind interprets events. By actively reshaping perception, the nervous system can experience safety and calm even in challenging situations. Mindfulness is the practice of paying attention to the present moment without judgment, and it reduces rumination, repetitive, negative thinking about the past or future. Rumination triggers stress hormones and keeps the nervous system in alert mode, increasing anxiety and irritability. Mindfulness helps break this cycle by training the brain to observe thoughts without getting caught in them. Over time, it strengthens the prefrontal cortex and weakens overactive stress circuits, improving emotional regulation. Practices like mindful breathing, meditation, or focused attention bring awareness to body sensations and emotions, signaling safety to the nervous system. People who practice mindfulness regularly report greater calm, reduced stress, and improved focus. By decreasing mental noise, mindfulness allows the nervous system to reset and enjoy moments of peace. This practice demonstrates that deliberate attention to the present can actively shape emotional balance and support long-term happiness. Gratitude journaling research shows that regularly noting things you are thankful for produces measurable benefits in happiness and emotional stability. Writing down positive experiences or appreciating small moments increases oxytocin and serotonin, enhancing calm and connection. Studies demonstrate that people who keep gratitude journals feel less stressed, sleep better, and report stronger relationships. The act of reflecting on positive aspects shifts attention away from negative comparisons and stressors, giving the nervous system cues of safety and abundance. Gratitude journaling also reinforces perspective, helping individuals notice consistent sources of support, competence, and meaning in life. Even brief daily entries, like writing 3 things you are grateful for, can produce cumulative improvements in mood and resilience. This research confirms that structured reflection on positive experiences strengthens internal systems for contentment. It shows that happiness can be cultivated actively through consistent, intentional mental habits. Acts of kindness have a direct and measurable effect on emotional well-being because they trigger oxytocin release, sometimes called the bonding hormone. When you help others, give compliments, or offer support, the brain interprets these actions as social connection and safety. Oxytocin reduces stress, lowers cortisol, and produces feelings of warmth, calm, and trust. Even small, intentional acts, like holding a door, smiling at a stranger, or sending a kind message, activate these chemical pathways. Performing kindness also reinforces competence and autonomy, signaling to the nervous system that you can make a positive impact. Studies show that people who regularly engage in helping behaviors report higher life satisfaction and reduced anxiety. Interestingly, giving has a greater effect on happiness than receiving. This shows that happiness is relational and biological, not only about personal gain. Simple acts of kindness create repeated, reliable signals of connection and purpose, strengthening long-term emotional stability. The slow living philosophy emphasizes reducing pace, focusing on the present, and prioritizing quality over quantity in life. Modern life's constant rush, multitasking, and pressure overload the nervous system, increasing stress hormones and reducing calm. By intentionally slowing down, whether in eating, walking, working, or interacting, people allow the brain to process experiences fully and reduce mental fatigue. Slow living encourages mindfulness, deeper connection with others, and appreciation for small joys, which activates serotonin and oxytocin pathways. Routine and predictable slow habits also reinforce competence and control, signaling safety to the nervous system. Unlike busyness, which overwhelms attention and amplifies stress, slow living provides repeated opportunities for calm and contentment. It demonstrates that happiness is not about doing more, achieving more, or moving faster, but about creating internal conditions that support the nervous system's natural chemistry for stability and well-being. Digital detox involves intentionally reducing screen time to reset dopamine pathways and reduce overstimulation. Constant notifications, social media, and entertainment flood the brain with quick bursts of dopamine, creating craving loops and reducing satisfaction from simple experiences. Over time, the nervous system becomes desensitized, requiring more stimulation to feel pleasure. A digital detox interrupts this cycle, allowing dopamine levels to normalize and the brain's reward system to regain balance. People report improved focus, reduced anxiety, and greater enjoyment of everyday activities during detox periods. The nervous system interprets the reduction of unpredictable digital input as safety and predictability, lowering cortisol and increasing calm. Digital detox does not mean avoiding technology entirely, but consciously creating boundaries to restore emotional equilibrium. This practice highlights that happiness and contentment often depend on regulating internal chemistry rather than constantly chasing external stimuli. Deep focus or flow state occurs when people engage fully in a challenging yet manageable task, losing track of time and self-conscious thought. In flow, the brain releases dopamine, endorphins, and norepinephrine, producing intrinsic motivation, pleasure, and heightened learning. The nervous system operates efficiently, with stress circuits quieted, because attention is fully absorbed and control is experienced. Flow strengthens competence, autonomy, and emotional resilience, providing a profound sense of satisfaction. This state is most easily reached when distractions are minimized, skills match task difficulty, and purpose is clear. People in flow report high creativity, reduced anxiety, and deep contentment. Unlike short-term pleasure, flow produces sustained chemical and psychological rewards, reinforcing internal systems for happiness. Understanding flow demonstrates that true contentment often comes from immersion, mastery, and purpose, showing how attention and engagement can shape emotional stability and chemical balance in the brain. Long walks are more than exercise. They provide bilateral stimulation that calms the nervous system and improves emotional balance. Walking naturally alternates left and right leg movement, which engages both hemispheres of the brain and promotes integration of emotional processing. This rhythmic activity signals safety to the nervous system, reduces cortisol, and increases serotonin and endorphins, creating a state of calm and clarity. Being outdoors while walking adds sunlight exposure, fresh air, and nature's restorative effects, further supporting emotional stability. Long walks also give the mind space to reflect, problem solve, and process daily experiences, which enhances resilience. Unlike intense workouts or dramatic changes, walking is simple, repeatable, and accessible, yet consistently produces chemical and psychological benefits. This explains why small, habitual actions like daily walks can have a surprisingly strong cumulative impact on long-term happiness, reinforcing calm, competence, and contentment naturally. Why do the simplest habits often work better than dramatic changes? The nervous system thrives on consistency, predictability, and small, reliable signals. Major life changes or extreme interventions can overwhelm the brain, activating stress circuits and reducing calm. In contrast, simple habits, like daily walking, journaling, or deep breathing, send repeated, manageable cues of competence, safety, and progress. These habits strengthen emotional regulation circuits over time, gradually rewiring the brain for stability without overwhelming it. Small, incremental actions are more sustainable and provide continuous reinforcement of reward pathways. People often overestimate the impact of dramatic changes and underestimate the cumulative effect of small routines. Simple habits create a pattern of repeated success, predictability, and neurochemical balance, showing that lasting happiness depends less on intensity and more on consistency, accessibility, and reliability. Happiness is rarely loud or dramatic. It usually emerges subtly, as a quiet sense of calm, satisfaction, and internal balance. While moments of excitement, thrill, or pleasure are intense, they are temporary and fade quickly as the brain adapts. True contentment comes from repeated activation of the nervous system's natural reward and safety circuits, such as through stable routines, meaningful social bonds, or small acts of progress. This subtlety explains why people often overlook their own happiness. It is present in gentle signals of calm, mastery, and connection, rather than in fireworks or major milestones. The nervous system interprets these repeated, low-intensity cues as safety, predictability, and competence. By appreciating the quiet, cumulative signals in daily life, people can notice that happiness is always there, quietly reinforcing resilience and emotional stability, even when external events are calm or ordinary. Contentment differs from excitement in important ways. Excitement is brief, intense, and often tied to novelty or external events, producing quick bursts of dopamine. Contentment, however, is slower, more stable, and internal, supported by serotonin, oxytocin, and the parasympathetic nervous system. While excitement can feel thrilling, it is unreliable and fleeting, often leading the nervous system to crave more stimulation. Contentment emerges from safety, competence, connection, and routine, creating a steady chemical and psychological baseline. It allows the brain to operate in calm, regulated states, improving decision-making, emotional stability, and long-term satisfaction. People who confuse excitement with happiness may chase highs that quickly fade, while those cultivating contentment experience reliable, subtle joy every day. Understanding this distinction clarifies why sustainable happiness relies more on internal systems than external novelty or thrill, emphasizing the importance of small, meaningful daily habits. Acceptance is a key sign of emotional maturity and a powerful pathway to happiness. It means recognizing life as it is, rather than constantly resisting or wishing things were different. When people practice acceptance, the nervous system receives signals of safety, reducing chronic stress and overactive threat responses. Acceptance does not mean giving up or being passive. It is about understanding what is within your control and what is not. By focusing on actions you can influence and letting go of what you cannot, the brain interprets situations as manageable, which promotes calm and emotional stability. Acceptance also strengthens resilience because challenges are no longer perceived as overwhelming threats but as part of life's flow. People who embrace acceptance report less anxiety, more contentment, and improved relationships. By seeing life realistically while maintaining agency, the nervous system remains balanced, and small daily events become sources of subtle, sustainable happiness. Emotional impermanence is the understanding that feelings are temporary and constantly changing. No matter how intense stress, sadness, or frustration may feel, it eventually passes. Recognizing this allows the nervous system to stay calm during difficult moments because the brain understands that the current state is not permanent. Just as happiness and excitement are fleeting, so are negative emotions. This perspective prevents overreaction to stressors and reduces the risk of rumination, which prolongs anxiety. By accepting that emotions naturally rise and fall, people can respond with clarity and patience rather than impulsivity. Emotional impermanence also fosters gratitude for positive experiences, knowing they, too, are transient. Training the mind to notice and let go of passing feelings strengthens prefrontal cortex activity, improves emotional regulation, and supports long-term contentment. Understanding impermanence reminds the nervous system that all states, good or bad, are part of a larger, manageable flow. Forgiveness is more than a moral choice. It directly affects emotional and physiological health. Holding grudges or anger keeps the nervous system in a prolonged threat response, increasing cortisol, blood pressure, and heart rate. Forgiving someone, even if difficult, signals to the brain that the threat is resolved, allowing the amygdala to calm and oxytocin to rise. This biochemical shift reduces stress, improves focus, and promotes social connection. Forgiveness does not mean condoning harm. It means releasing emotional tension and reclaiming internal calm. Research shows that people who forgive regularly experience lower stress markers, better sleep, and higher life satisfaction. By actively letting go of resentment, the nervous system moves from hyperalertness to stability, reinforcing emotional resilience. This illustrates that happiness is not only about positive experiences, but also about clearing emotional weight that prevents calm and contentment from emerging. The idea of enough is central to lasting contentment. It is the recognition that continual accumulation, achievement, or comparison is not necessary to feel satisfied. Understanding enough teaches the nervous system that current circumstances are sufficient, reducing chronic stress and dopamine-driven craving loops. This mindset encourages gratitude, simplicity, and focus on meaningful experiences rather than endless chasing. People who practice the concept of enough feel calmer, less anxious, and more present, because their emotional system is not constantly in a state of wanting or threat. Enough does not mean stagnation. It means appreciating what exists while still growing intentionally. By accepting that daily life, relationships, and personal achievements provide sufficient opportunities for contentment, the brain reinforces stability, safety, and subtle, reliable happiness. This principle is a powerful antidote to overstimulation, comparison, and the hedonic treadmill. Safety is the deepest layer of happiness because the nervous system prioritizes survival above all else. Before pleasure, excitement, or achievement can be fully appreciated, the brain must perceive that threats are minimal and basic needs are met. Safety signals, like predictable routines, supportive relationships, a stable environment, and physical security, allow the amygdala to calm and the prefrontal cortex to process experiences clearly. When safety is present, the nervous system can engage dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and endorphin systems effectively, producing genuine calm and contentment. Without safety, the brain remains on high alert, and even positive experiences feel muted or stressful. This explains why people often feel uneasy despite external success or pleasure if they lack underlying security. True, lasting happiness begins with this foundational sense of safety because it allows the body and mind to function in balance. Establishing safety is not dramatic. It is subtle, consistent, and cumulative. At night, the brain naturally slows down to process experiences, consolidate memories, and regulate emotions. Sleep stages, especially deep sleep and REM sleep, allow the nervous system to reset chemical balances, lower stress hormones, and strengthen emotional regulation circuits. Nighttime slowing gives the amygdala a break from constant alertness, while the prefrontal cortex integrates experiences, resolves emotional conflicts, and supports problem solving. The body also experiences lowered heart rate, relaxed muscles, and steady breathing, signaling the parasympathetic system that conditions are safe. This nightly pattern demonstrates that happiness and calm are not always loud or active. They often emerge quietly as the nervous system restores itself. By respecting natural sleep rhythms and allowing proper rest, people give their brains the environment to consolidate positive emotional patterns, reinforcing long-term contentment and stability. Happiness doesn't need to be chased because it is not always a product of external achievements or dramatic experiences. The nervous system responds more strongly to subtle, reliable cues of safety, competence, connection, and predictability than to constant pursuit of novelty. When people stop pushing and allow themselves to engage in small, consistent habits like journaling, walking, social connection, mindful breathing, or meaningful routines, the brain recognizes stability and releases calming chemicals naturally. Chasing happiness often activates stress and dopamine-seeking loops, which paradoxically reduce satisfaction. Letting go of the chase allows the nervous system to notice positive signals that were already present, creating effortless calm. Understanding that happiness is a biological and relational state, rather than a goal, transforms perspective, shifting focus from external pressure to internal balance. This reminds us that happiness is cultivated by nurturing the conditions that the nervous system naturally responds to. Happiness often arrives when the nervous system feels safe enough to rest. It is not a loud achievement, a peak experience, or a sudden thrill. It emerges quietly in moments when stress is low, routines are predictable, and connections feel secure. The brain and body can only fully activate contentment chemicals, serotonin, oxytocin, endorphins, and dopamine, when the threat response is minimal. Safety signals allow the prefrontal cortex to regulate emotions, integrate experiences, and appreciate the present. When the nervous system is calm, even simple activities, a warm meal, conversation with a loved one, a long walk, or a quiet evening, produce genuine, lasting happiness. This understanding flips common assumptions. Happiness is not a prize to win or a goal to chase. It is a natural byproduct of stability, trust, competence, and rest. True contentment emerges when life feels secure enough for the nervous system to let go, relax, and simply be.